Worcester is a cathedral city and the county town of Worcestershire in the West Midlands of England. The city is located some 17 miles southwest of the southern suburbs of Birmingham and 23 miles north of Gloucester. The population is approximately 100,000. The River Severn flanks the western side of the city centre, which is overlooked by the 12th-century Worcester Cathedral. The site of the final battle of the Civil War, Worcester, was where Oliver Cromwell's New Model Army defeated King Charles I's Cavaliers, cementing the 11-year interregnum. Worcester was the home of Royal Worcester porcelain, and for much of his life, the composer Sir Edward Elgar. It houses the Lee & Amp Perrins factory where traditional Worcestershire sauce is made. The University of Worcester is one of the UK's fastest-growing universities. History. The trade route past Worcester, which later formed part of the Roman Ricknell Street, dates to Neolithic times. The position commanded the ford over the River Severn and was fortified by the Britons around 400 BC. It would have been on the northern border of the Dobunny and probably subject to the larger communities of the Malvern Hillfits. The Roman settlement at the site passes unmentioned by Ptolemy's geography, the Antonine itinerary and the register of dignitaries, but would have grown up on the road opened between Glevum and Viriconium in the AD 40s and 50s. It may have been the Virtus mentioned in the 7th century Ravenna cosmography. Using charcoal from the Forest of Dean, the Romans operated pottery kilns and ironworks at the site and may have built a small fort. In the 3rd century, Roman Worcester occupied a larger area than the subsequent medieval city, but silting of the Diglis Basin caused the abandonment of Sidbury. Industrial production ceased and the settlement contracted to a defended position along the lines of the old British fort at the River Terrace's southern end. This settlement is generally identified with the Caeg Irrigant and listed among the 28 cities of Britain by the History of the Britons attributed to Nennius. This is not a British name but an adaptation of its Old English name Weogoran Seaster, Fort of the Weogoran. The Weogoran were precursors of Hwicce and probably West Saxons who entered the area some time after the 577 Battle of Durham. In 680, the fort at Worcester was chosen, in preference to both the much larger Gloucester and the royal court at Winchcombe, to be the seat of a new bishopric, suggesting there was already a well-established and powerful Christian community when the site fell into English hands. The oldest known church was St. Helen's, which was certainly British. The Saxon cathedral was dedicated to St. Peter. The town was almost destroyed in 1041 after a rebellion against the punitive taxation of Harthacnute. During this time, the townsfolk relocated to the nearby Bavaria Island, 2 miles upriver. The following century, the town was attacked several times during the Anarchy, i.e., civil war between King Stephen and Empress Matilda, daughter of Henry I. This is the background to the well-researched historical novel The Virgin in the Iced part of Ellis Peters' Cadfael series, which begins with the words, "It was early in November of 1139 that the tide of civil war, lately so sluggish and inactive, rose suddenly to wash over the city of Worcester, wash away half of its livestock, property and women, and send all those of its inhabitants who could get away in time scurrying for their lives northwards away from the marauders." By late medieval times the population had grown to around 10,000 as the manufacture of cloth started to become a large local industry. The town was designated a county corporate, giving it autonomy from a local government. Worcester was the site of the Battle of Worcester, when Charles II attempted to forcefully regain the crown. In the fields a little to the west and south of the city, near the village of Powick, However, Charles II was defeated and returned to his headquarters in what is now known as King Charles House in the Corn Market, before fleeing in disguise to Boscobel House in Shropshire, from where he eventually escaped to France. Worcester had supported the parliamentary cause before the outbreak of war in 1642, but spent most of the war under royalist occupation. After the war, it cleverly used its location as the site of the final battles of the First Civil War and Third Civil War to try to mount an appeal for compensation from the new King Charles II. As part of this, and not based upon any historical fact, it invented the epithet Fidelis Civitas, and this motto has since been incorporated into the city's coat of arms. In 1670, the River Severn broke its banks and the subsequent flood was the worst ever seen by Worcester. A brass plate can be found on a wall on the path to the cathedral by the path along the river, showing how high this flood went, and other flood heights of more recent times are also shown in stone bricks. The closest flood height to what is known as the flood of 1670 was when the Severn flooded in the torrential rains of July 2007. The Royal Worcester Porcelain Company factory was founded by Dr. John Wall in 1751. Although it no longer produces goods, a handful of decorators are still employed at the factory, and the museum is still open. During the late 18th and early 19th centuries, Worcester was a major centre for glove making, employing nearly half the glovers in England at its peak. In 1815, the Worcester and Birmingham Canal opened, allowing Worcester goods to be transported to a larger conurbation. The British Medical Association was founded in the boardroom of the old Worcester Royal Infirmary building in Castle Street in 1832. While part of the Royal Infirmary has now been demolished to make way for the University of Worcester's new city campus, the original Georgian building has been preserved. One of the old wards opened as a medical museum, the infirmary, in 2012. In 1882, Worcester hosted the Worcestershire exhibition, inspired by the Great Exhibition in London. There were sections for exhibits of fine arts, historical manuscripts and industrial items. The profit was £1,867.90. 6d. The number of visitors is recorded as 222,807. Some of the profit from the exhibition was used to build the Victoria Institute in Foregate Street, Worcester. This was opened on the 1st of October 1896 and now houses the City Art Gallery and Museum. Further information about the exhibition can be found at the museum. During World War II, the city was chosen to be the seat of an evacuated government in case of mass German invasion. The War Cabinet, along with Winston Churchill and some 16,000 state workers, would have moved to Hindlip Hall, 3 miles north of Worcester, and Parliament would have temporarily seated in Stratford-upon-Avon. The former RAF station RAF Worcester was located east of Northwick. In the 1950s and 1960s, large areas of the medieval centre of Worcester were demolished and rebuilt as a result of decisions by town planners. This was condemned by many, such as Nicolaus Pevsner, who described it as a totally incomprehensible act of self-mutilation. There is still a significant area of medieval Worcester remaining, but it is a small fraction of what was present before the redevelopments. The current city boundaries date from 1974, when the Local Government Act 1972 transferred the parishes of Warndon and St. Peter the Great County into the city. Images governance. The Conservatives had a majority on the council from 2003 to 2007, when they lost a by-election to Labour, meaning the council had no overall control. The Conservatives remained with the most seats overall, with 17 out of 35 seats after the 2008 election. Worcester has one Member of Parliament, Rob Owen Walker of the Conservative Party, who represents the Worcester constituency as of the May 2010 general election. The County of Worcestershire's local government arrangement is formed of a non-metropolitan county council and 6 non-metropolitan district councils, with Worcester City Council being the district council for most of Worcester, with a small area of the St. Peter's suburb actually falling within the neighbouring Wychavon District Council. The Worcester City Council area includes 2 parish councils, these being Warndon Parish Council and St. Peter the Great Parish Council. Worcester Guildhall, the seat of local government, dates from 1721. It replaced an earlier hall on the same site. The grey die-listed Queen Anne-style building is described by Pevsner as a splendid town hall, as splendid as any of C18 England. Geography. Notable suburbs in Worcester include Barbourne, Blackpool, Cherry Orchard, Claines, Diggles, Northwark, Redhill, Ronkswade, St. Peter the Great, Tolladine, Warndon and Warndon villages. Most of Worcester is on the eastern side of the River Severn. Henwick, Lower Wick Street, Johns and Dines Green are on the western side. Climate. Worcester enjoys a temperate climate with warm summers and mild winters generally. However, the city can experience more extreme weather and flooding is often a problem. During the winters of 2009-10 and 2010-11, the city experienced prolonged periods of sub-freezing temperatures and heavy snowfalls. In December 2010, the temperature dropped to -19.5 degrees Celsius in nearby Pershore. The River Severn and the River Teme partially froze over in Worcester during this cold snap. In contrast, Worcester recorded 37 degrees Celsius on the 3rd of August 1990. Between 1990 and 2003, weather data for the area was collected at Barbourne, Worcester. After the closure of this weather station, the nearest one is located at Pershore. Demography and religion. The 2001 census recorded Worcester's population at 93,353. About 96.5% of Worcester's population was white, of which 94.2% were white British, greater than the national average. The largest religious group are Christians, who made up 77% of the city's population. People who reported having no religion or who did not state the religion made up 21% of the city's population. Other religions totaled less than 2% of the population. Ethnic minorities include people of Bangladeshi, Chinese, Indian, Pakistani, Italian and Polish origin, with the largest single minority group being British Pakistanis, numbering around 1,200, approximately 1.3% of Worcester's population. This has led to Worcester containing a small but diverse range of religious groups, as well as the commanding Worcester Cathedral. There are also Catholic, United Reformed Church and Baptist churches, a large centre for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, an Islamic mosque and a number of smaller interest groups regarding Eastern religions such as Buddhism and the Hare Krishnas. Worcester is the seat of a Church of England bishop. His or her official signature is his or her Christian name followed by Wigorn, which is also occasionally used as an abbreviation for the name of the county. The Archdeacon of Worcester, inducted in November 2014, was rector of St Barnabas with Christ Church in Worcester for 8 years. Economy. The city of Worcester, located on the River Severn and with transport links to Birmingham and other parts of the Midlands through the vast canal network, became an important centre for many light industries. The late Victorian period saw the growth of iron founders like Enon and Amp Froude, Hardy and Amp Padmore and Mackenzie and Amp Holland. Glove industry. One of the flourishing industries of Worcester was glove making. Worcester's gloving industry peaked between 1790 and 1820 when about 30,000 were employed by 150 companies. At this time nearly half of the glove manufacturers of Britain were located in Worcestershire. In the 19th century the industry declined because import taxes on foreign competitors, mainly from France, were greatly reduced. By the middle of the 20th century, only a few Worcester gloving companies survived since gloves became less fashionable and free trade allowed in cheaper imports from the Far East. Nevertheless, at least 3 large glove manufacturing companies still survived until the late 20th century: Dent, Allcroft, Founds and Malore. Queen Elizabeth II's coronation gloves were designed by Emile Rich and manufactured in the Worcester-based Malore factory. Manufacturing. The interwar years saw the rapid growth of engineering, producing machine tools. James Archdale, H.W. Ward, castings for the motor industry. Worcester windshields and casements. Mining machinery. Mining engineering company which later became part of Joy Mining Machinery and open-top cans. Williamson's. Though G.H. Williamson and Sons had become part of the Metal Box Co. in 1930. Later the company became Carno Metal Box plc. Worcester Porcelain operated in Worcester until 2008 when the factory closed down due to the recession. However, the site of Worcester Porcelain still houses the Museum of Royal Worcester, which is open daily to visitors. One of Worcester's most famous products, Leonamp Perrins Worcestershire sauce, is made and bottled at the Midland Road factory in Worcester, which has been the home of Leonamp Perrins since the 16th of October 1897. Mr. Lee and Mr. Perrins originally met in a chemist's shop on the site of the now Debenhams store in the Crown Gate shopping centre. The surprising foundry heritage of the city is represented by Morganite crucible at Norton, which produces graphitic-shaped products and cements for use in the modern industry. Worcester is the home of what is claimed to be the oldest newspaper in the world, Barrow's Worcester Journal, which traces its descent from a news sheet that started publication in 1690. The city is also a major retail centre with several covered shopping centres that has most major chains represented, as well as a host of independent shops and restaurants, particularly in Friar Street and New Street. The city is home to the European manufacturing plant of Yamazaki Mazak Corporation, a global Japanese machine tool builder, which was established in 1980. Retail trade. The Kay's mail-order business was founded in Worcester in the 1880s and operated from numerous premises in the city until 2007. It was then bought out by Reality, owner of the Grattan catalogue. Kay's former warehouse building was demolished in 2008. Worcester's main shopping centre is the High Street, home to the stores of a number of major retail chains. Part of the High Street was modernised in 2005 amid much controversy. Many of the issues focused on the felling of old trees, the duration of the works and the removal of flagstones outside the city's 18th-century Guildhall. The other main thoroughfares of the Shambles and Broad Street, while the Cross is the city's financial centre and location of the majority of Worcester's main bank branches. There are 3 main covered shopping centres in the city centre, these being Crown Gate Shopping Centre, Cathedral Plaza and Reindeer Court. There is also an unenclosed shopping area located immediately east of the city centre called St Martin's Quarter. There are 3 retail parks, the Elgar and Blackpool retail parks, which are located in the inner suburb of Blackpool, and the Shrub Hill retail park neighbouring St Martin's Quarter. Landmarks. The most famous landmark in Worcester is its imposing Anglican cathedral. The current building, known as Worcester Priory before the English Reformation, is officially named the Cathedral Church of Christ and the Blessed Virgin Mary. Construction began in 1084 while its crypt dates from the 10th century. The chapter house is the only circular one in the country, while the cathedral also has the distinction of having the tomb of King John. Limited parts of Worcester's city walls still remain in situ. The Hive, situated on the northern side of the River Severn at the former cattle market site, is Worcester's joint public and university library and archive centre, heralded as the first of its kind in Europe. It is a prominent landmark feature on the Worcester skyline. With 7 towers and a golden rooftop, the Hive has gained recognition, winning 2 international awards for building design and sustainability. There are 3 main parks in Worcester: Cripplegate Park, Gelliveld Park and Fort Royal Park, the latter being on one of the battle sites of the English Civil War. In addition, there is a large open area known as Pitchcroft to the north of the city centre on the east bank of the River Severn, which, apart from those days when it is being used for horse racing, is a public space. Gelliveld Park was opened as a memorial to commemorate the Worcestershire Regiment's 2nd Battalion after the part in the Battle of Gelliveld. During the First World War, the statue of Sir Edward Elgar, commissioned from Kenneth Potts and unveiled in 1981, stands at the end of Worcester High Street facing the cathedral, only yards from the original location of his father's music shop, which was demolished in the 1960s. Elgar's birthplace is a short way from Worcester, in the village of Broadheath. There are also 2 large woodlands in the city: Perry Wood, at 12 hectares, and Nunnery Wood, covering 21 hectares. Perry Wood is often said to be the place where Oliver Cromwell met and made a pact with the devil. Nunnery Wood is an integral part of the adjacent and popular Worcester Woods Country Park, itself next door to County Hall on the east side of the city. Transport Road. The M5 motorway runs north-south immediately to the east of the city and is accessed by Junction 6 and Junction 7. This makes the city easily accessible by car to most parts of the country, including London, which is only 118 miles using the A44 via the Cotswolds and M40. A faster journey to London is possible via the M5, M42 and M44, an increased distance of 134 miles. Several A roads pass through the city. The A449 road runs southwest to Malvern and north to Kidderminster. The A44 runs southeast to Evesham and west to Leominster and Aberystwyth and crosses Worcester Bridge. The A38 trunk road runs south to Tewkesbury and Gloucester and north-northeast to Droitwich and Birmingham. The A4103 goes west-southwest to Hereford. The A422 heads east to Ulster, branching from the A44 a mile east of the M5. The city is encompassed by a partial ring road which is formed, rather inconsistently, by single and dual carriageways. The A4440 road provides a second road bridge across the Severn just west of the A4440-A38 junction. Carrington Bridge links the A38 from Worcester towards Gloucester with the A449 linking Worcester with through Malvern. Rail Worcester has 2 stations, Worcester Foregate Street and Worcester Shrub Hill. Worcester Foregate Street is located in the city centre on Foregate Street. The line towards Malvern and Hereford, which is the Cotswold line, crosses Foregate Street on an arched cast-iron bridge which was remodelled by the Great Western Railway in 1908 with decorative cast-iron exterior, serving no structural purpose. Between Foregate Street and the St. John's area of the city, heading towards Malvern and Hereford, The line is elevated and travels along the Worcester Viaduct, which crosses over the River Severn. Worcester Shrub Hill is located around 1 mile from the city centre on Shrub Hill Road. The station is part of a loop line off the Birmingham to Gloucester Railway, which forms part of today's cross-country route. Alongside the Worcester Shrub Hill station, on Shrub Hill Road, was the Worcester Engine Works. The polychrome brick building was erected about 1864 and was probably designed by Thomas Dixon. The venture was not a success and only 84 locomotives were built, and the works closed in 1871. The chairman of the Worcester Engine Works was Alexander Clunes Sherritt. Both stations frequently serve Birmingham via Droitwich Spa, then either lines being firstly via Kidderminster and Stour Bridge into Birmingham Snow Hill and Birmingham Moor Street, then onwards usually to Dorridge or Whitlocks, and are secondly via Bromsgrove and University and Birmingham New Street. These services are run by London Midland Bus. The main operator of bus services in and around the city is First Midland Red. A few other smaller operators provide services in Worcester, including Hastings, DRM and LMS Travel. The terminus and interchange for many bus services in Worcester is Crown Gate Bus Station, located in the city centre. The city formerly had 2 park and ride sites, one located off the A38 in Purdaswell and the other at Sixways Stadium next to the M5. Worcestershire County Council voted to close both of them in 2014 as part of a cost-saving package of cutbacks to bus services. The park and ride service at Sixways Stadium has since been reinstated, with LMS Travel operating the W3 route to Worcestershire Royal Hospital. The route does not service Worcester's city centre bus station. Air Worcester's nearest major airport is Birmingham Airport, which is accessible by road and rail. Gloucestershire Airport is approximately 25 miles away and provides general aviation connections and scheduled services with City Wing to Jersey, the Isle of Man and Belfast. Education. Worcester is home to the University of Worcester, which was awarded university status in 2005 by HM Privy Council. From 1997 to 2005 it was known as University College Worcester, and prior to 1997 it was known as Worcester College of Higher Education. From 2005 to 2010 it was the fastest growing university in the UK, more than doubling its student population. The university is also home to the independent Worcester Students' Union institution. The city is also home to 2 colleges, Worcester Sixth Form College and Heart of Worcestershire College. High schools. The high schools located in the city are Bishop Arone COFE College, Blessed Edward Old Corn Catholic College, Christopher Whitehead Language College, Tudor Grange Academy Worcester, Nunnery Wood High School and New College Worcester, which caters for blind and partially sighted pupils from the ages of 11 to 18. Independent schools. Worcester is also the seat of 3 independent schools: the Royal Grammar School, founded in 1291, and Alice Otley School, merged in 2007. The King's School was refounded in 1541 under King Henry VIII. St Mary's School, a girls' Catholic school, was the only remaining single-sex independent school, but closed in July 2014. Other independent schools include the Independent Christian School, the River School in Fernhill Heath, and New College Worcester for the blind and partially sighted. Sport. Worcester Warriors, an Aviva Premiership rugby union team who play at Sixways Stadium. Worcestershire County Cricket Club, whose home ground is New Road. National League North Football Club, Worcester City. Worcester Hockey Club has teams entered in the West Hockey Leagues. Worcester St John's Cycling Club, Worcester Wolves, a professional basketball team in the British Basketball League. Worcester Racecourse is on an open area known as Pitchcroft on the east bank of the River Severn. Worcester has King George's Field in memorial to King George V. Worcester Rowing Club, which is situated near the city centre on the River Severn. University of Worcester Rowing Club, which shares accommodation with Worcester Rowing Club. University of Birmingham Rowing Club. Worcester Athletics Club, who meet on Tuesdays and Thursdays at Nunnery Wood Sports Centre. Worcester University Climbing and Mountaineering Club. Worcester Dominies and Guild Cricket Club. Kempsey Cricket Club.